There's a moment late at night when everything is quiet, when the noise of the world fades, and all that's left is you, your thoughts, and the subtle signals your body has been trying to send you all along. And what if I told you that in those quiet hours lies a simple, almost forgotten ritual that can awaken a deeper sense of confidence, connection, and performance that most men never fully tap into? Not because it's complicated, but because they've never been taught to slow down long enough to feel it working, to notice the shift, to recognize how something as subtle as a nighttime oil routine can begin to rewire not just the body but the mind, the emotional state, and the way you show up in intimate moments. Because real performance doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the rituals you build when no one is watching, in the attention you give to your own body, in the respect you develop for your own energy. And that's where this journey starts. Not with pressure or expectation, but with awareness. With the understanding that your body responds to consistency, to care, to intention. And when you introduce a nighttime oil routine, you're not just applying something to your skin, you're initiating a conversation with your nervous system, telling it that it's safe to relax, safe to release tension, safe to rebuild. And over time, this simple act begins to shift how you feel in your own body. Because many men carry hidden stress, tension stored in the lower abdomen, tightness that they don't even realize is affecting their performance, their stamina, their sensitivity. And when that tension is left unaddressed, it creates a disconnect, a subtle barrier between desire and response, between intention and execution. But when you bring warmth into the equation, when you use natural oils and gentle, mindful touch, something changes. Circulation improves, awareness deepens, and more importantly, your relationship with your own body becomes less mechanical and more intuitive. And that's where real transformation begins. Because intimacy is not just physical, it's neurological, it's emotional, it's deeply tied to how safe and present you feel. And nighttime becomes the perfect window for this kind of reset. Because your body is already preparing to recover, your hormones are shifting, your mind is unwinding. And when you introduce a calming oil routine into that process, you amplify what your body is already trying to do naturally. You support better blood flow. You encourage relaxation in areas that are often overlooked. And you begin to build a rhythm, a habit that signals to your body that it's time to restore, to recharge, to come back stronger. And as this routine becomes consistent, something subtle but powerful starts to happen. Your confidence begins to grow, not from external validation, but from internal awareness, from knowing that you're taking care of yourself in a way that most men ignore. And that confidence translates directly into how you carry yourself, how you connect, how you respond in intimate situations. Because performance is not just about physical capability, it's about presence, about being fully there, without distraction, without anxiety, without that underlying tension that quietly sabotages so many experiences. And this is where the oil itself plays a deeper role, not just as a physical enhancer, but as a sensory tool. Because scent, texture, warmth, all of these elements communicate with your brain. They influence your mood, your state, your level of relaxation. And when chosen carefully, oils like those infused with natural herbs or calming properties can help reduce stress hormones, while encouraging a more balanced state of arousal and relaxation, which is exactly what you need for sustainable performance, not forced, not rushed, but natural, controlled, and deeply satisfying. And the key here is not speed, it's intention. It's the way you slow down, the way you become aware of your breath, the way you allow the routine to become almost meditative. Because when you approach it like a task, you miss the point. But when you approach it like a ritual, something you actually look forward to, something that grounds you at the end of the day, it begins to change your entire relationship with intimacy. Because now, it's not just about the end result. It's about the process, the build-up, the connection you have with your own body. And this is something many men have lost without even realizing it. They've been conditioned to focus only on outcomes, on performance metrics, on expectations. But real intimacy thrives in awareness, in sensitivity, in the ability to feel rather than just perform. And this routine gently guides you back to that space, where you're not disconnected, where you're not rushing, where you're actually present. And as days turn into weeks, the cumulative effect becomes undeniable. Your body responds faster, your control improves, your endurance stabilizes. But more importantly, your confidence becomes quiet and steady rather than anxious and reactive. And that's what makes the biggest difference. Because when you trust your body, when you feel in control without forcing it, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your interactions become more natural, more engaging, more magnetic. And this is not about magic solutions or instant results. It's about building a foundation, a routine that works with your biology instead of against it, that respects your body's natural rhythms instead of trying to override them. And in doing so, you unlock a level of performance that feels effortless rather than forced. And it all begins in those quiet nighttime moments, where no one is watching, where there is no pressure, only the opportunity to reconnect, to rebuild, and to quietly transform the way you experience intimacy from the inside out. And once you start to notice these changes, once you begin to feel that difference in your body, your awareness deepens even further, because you start paying attention to things you used to ignore, like how your breathing affects your tension, how your thoughts influence your physical response, how your emotional state carries into your intimate life, in ways that are far more powerful than most people realize. And this is where the routine evolves from something physical into something holistic, something that begins to touch every part of your experience, making you more aware, more in control, and more connected, not just during intimacy, but in how you carry yourself every day. And that's the real power of it, not just better performance, but a deeper understanding of your own body and mind working together in a way that feels natural, balanced, and sustainable. And as this awareness begins to settle into your daily rhythm, you start to notice that the routine is no longer something you have to remind yourself to do. It becomes something your body naturally leans into, almost like a signal at the end of the day that it's time to return to yourself, to release the layers of stress that have built up without your permission, because most men move through their days carrying tension they never consciously chose. Tension from responsibilities, from unspoken pressure, from constantly needing to perform in every area of life. And by the time night arrives, that tension hasn't disappeared. It has simply gone quiet, settling deeper into the body, especially in areas connected to intimacy and control. And this is where your nighttime oil routine becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a form of unwinding that speaks directly to those hidden layers. Because when you apply warmth and slow, intentional touch, you're not just affecting the surface. You're signaling your nervous system to shift gears, to move out of that constant alert state and into something far more restorative. And this shift is crucial because performance is deeply tied to relaxation, not just physical relaxation, but mental and emotional ease. And without that, even the strongest physical response can feel inconsistent, unpredictable, or forced. But when your body feels safe and relaxed, everything begins to align more naturally. Your responses become smoother, your control becomes more intuitive, and your endurance becomes less about effort and more about flow. And what's interesting is how this begins to influence your mindset as well. Because when you commit to a routine that prioritizes your own well-being, your sense of self-respect grows. And that self-respect subtly changes how you approach intimacy. You're no longer seeking validation or trying to prove something. Instead, you're showing up from a place of quiet confidence, from a place where you trust your body and understand its rhythms. And this trust is what allows you to be more present, more attentive, more connected, because you're not caught up in overthinking or second-guessing yourself. You're simply experiencing the moment as it unfolds. And that presence is something that can't be faked. It's something that develops over time as you build this deeper relationship with yourself. And the oil routine acts as a bridge to that connection. Especially when you begin to pair it with mindful breathing, allowing each movement to sync with your breath, creating a rhythm that calms the mind while energizing the body. And over time, this rhythm becomes familiar, almost automatic, so that even outside of your routine, your body remembers how to return to that state of balance, how to release tension more easily, how to stay grounded even in moments that might have previously triggered anxiety or pressure. And this is where the real transformation starts to show itself, not just in physical performance, but in emotional stability. Because the same calm control you develop during your nighttime ritual begins to carry over into your interactions. Your confidence feels less forced. Your energy feels more steady, and your ability to connect becomes more genuine. And this is something that partners can feel immediately, even if they can't explain it, because it's not about technique or effort. It's about presence, about the way you hold yourself, the way you respond, the way you stay engaged without distraction. And all of this stems from the consistency of the routine, from the quiet discipline of showing up for yourself night after night, even when no one else is watching. And that consistency builds something powerful. It builds trust, not just in your body, but in your habits. And when your habits are aligned with your well-being, everything else begins to fall into place more naturally. And another important aspect that often goes unnoticed is how this routine can help improve your sensitivity in a balanced way, not by overwhelming your system, but by gradually increasing your awareness of subtle sensations. And this awareness allows you to develop better control. Because when you can feel more, you can regulate more effectively. You're not reacting impulsively. You're responding with intention. And that distinction makes a significant difference in how you experience intimacy, because it shifts the focus from performance anxiety to shared experience, from pressure to connection. And as this shift deepens, you begin to realize that the routine is not just preparing your body, it's reshaping your entire approach. It's teaching you patience, teaching you how to slow down, how to listen, how to stay present even when your mind wants to rush ahead. And these are qualities that extend far beyond intimacy. They influence how you handle stress, how you communicate, how you carry yourself in situations that require confidence and composure. And this is why the nighttime aspect is so important, because it creates a consistent space where you can disconnect from external demands and reconnect with your internal state. And in that space, without distractions, without expectations, you begin to understand yourself in a way that most people never take the time to explore. And that understanding becomes your foundation. It becomes the source of your confidence, your control, your ability to perform not just physically but emotionally. Because real performance is not about intensity alone. It's about balance, about knowing when to engage and when to relax, when to lead and when to flow. And this balance is something that can only be developed through awareness, through consistency, through the kind of intentional practice that your nighttime oil routine provides. And as you continue with this practice, you may start to notice subtle changes in your sleep as well. Because when your body is more relaxed, when your mind is less cluttered, your ability to rest improves, and better rest leads to better recovery, better hormonal balance, better overall energy. And all of these factors contribute directly to your performance, creating a cycle of improvement that builds over time. And this is where patience becomes essential, because the changes are not always immediate or dramatic. They are gradual, layered, and deeply rooted. But once they take hold, they are far more sustainable than any quick fix or temporary solution. And this is what separates a true routine from a temporary habit. It becomes part of who you are, part of how you take care of yourself, part of how you prepare not just for intimacy but for life. And in that preparation, you're not just improving performance, you're building a deeper sense of connection with yourself that influences everything you do, making you more grounded, more confident, and more present in ways that extend far beyond the surface. And as this deeper sense of connection continues to strengthen, something almost unexpected begins to unfold. You stop chasing performance altogether, and instead you start embodying it. Because what once felt like something you had to achieve now feels like something that naturally flows through you. And this is the point where the routine reveals its true purpose. Not as a tool to fix something broken, but as a way to unlock what was always there beneath layers of tension, distraction, and misunderstanding. And when you reach this stage, your relationship with intimacy transforms in a way that feels effortless yet profoundly powerful. Because you're no longer operating from a place of doubt or urgency. You're moving with clarity, with awareness, with a calm confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. And this shift is something that others can feel immediately. Not because of what you do, but because of how you are. Because presence has a weight to it, a quiet intensity that draws people in without force. And that presence is built in the unseen moments, in the consistency of your nighttime ritual, in the way you've trained your body and mind to work together, instead of pulling in opposite directions. And over time, this alignment begins to influence not just your intimate experiences, but your identity as a whole. You become someone who is in control, without being rigid, relaxed without being passive, engaged without being overwhelmed. And this balance is what creates lasting performance, because it's rooted in stability rather than spikes of intensity. And when your foundation is stable, everything you build on top of it becomes more reliable, more consistent, more satisfying. And this is where many men begin to notice that their confidence is no longer tied to outcomes. It's tied to preparation, to the quiet knowledge that they've taken the time to understand their body, to care for it, to build habits that support it. And that kind of confidence doesn't fluctuate based on a single moment. It remains steady, grounded, and resilient. And that resilience carries into every aspect of intimacy, allowing you to stay present even when things don't go exactly as expected, allowing you to adapt, to respond, to remain connected without losing yourself in the process. And this adaptability is one of the most underrated aspects of performance, because real connection is never perfectly scripted. It's dynamic. It's responsive. It requires you to be in tune not just with yourself, but with your partner. And the awareness you've developed through your routine makes that possible, because you've learned how to listen, how to feel, how to stay grounded even as emotions and sensations shift. And this creates a level of intimacy that goes far beyond the physical. It becomes an experience of mutual presence, where both people feel seen, felt, and connected in a way that is rare and deeply fulfilling. And at this stage, the oil routine itself becomes almost symbolic. It represents the commitment you've made to yourself, the discipline of showing up consistently, the respect you've developed for your own body and energy. And even if the specifics of the routine evolve over time, the intention behind it remains the same: to create a space where you can reconnect, reset, and realign with yourself. And that intention is what continues to drive your growth. Because once you've experienced the difference that this kind of awareness brings, you're unlikely to return to the old patterns of neglect and disconnection, because you've felt what it's like to be fully present, to move with confidence that comes from within rather than from external validation. And that feeling becomes something you naturally want to maintain, not out of pressure, but out of appreciation for how it transforms your experiences. And as this journey continues, you may even find that the boundaries between your routine and your daily life begin to blur, because the qualities you've developed, patience, awareness, control, presence, they start to show up in everything you do, in how you communicate, how you handle stress, how you approach challenges. And this is where the true impact becomes undeniable. Because what started as a simple nighttime practice has evolved into a way of being, a mindset that supports not just better performance, but a better quality of life overall. And this is the final realization that ties everything together: that performance is not a separate part of your life. It is a reflection of how you live, how you think, how you take care of yourself when no one is watching. And when you align those aspects with intention and consistency, the results are not just temporary improvements. They are lasting transformations that continue to deepen over time. And so what began as a quiet experiment, a simple oil routine at the end of the day, becomes something far more meaningful. A daily reminder that your body responds to care, that your mind responds to presence, and that true confidence is built in the moments of discipline and awareness that most people overlook. And when you carry that understanding forward, you no longer question your ability to perform, because you know that performance is simply the natural outcome of a body and mind that are in harmony. And that harmony is something you've learned to create, to maintain, and to trust, not just in fleeting moments, but as a consistent part of who you are, allowing you to experience intimacy in a way that is deeper, more connected, and ultimately more fulfilling than you may have ever thought possible.